Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and hello. It's the 6th of May, and it's 8 o'clock, which means it's time for the very live breakfast show. 6th of May already. Whoosh. Where's the year going? I thought some people will be sitting there thinking this year has taken forever because of various different lockdowns and restrictions. But I'm just thinking to myself, 6th of May already. Mate, how are you getting on? How are you getting on in this whoosh of a year?
Wow, it is absolutely flying by. Good morning, everybody. And welcome to the Business Breakfast Show with Nick and I. Another exciting morning lined up. But yeah, Nick, the year seems to be going really quickly. And considering lots of us have been kind of locked down over the last 12, 13, 14 months, normality's starting to come back into flow. Have you been out for your pub visit yet, Nick? Have you been down there and got your pints?
Ridiculously, very early on, mate, as soon as we were allowed, a friend of mine booked a table. We were down there. It was blooming freezing, shivering, big coat, hat, gloves, but a pint in my hand. And I felt like a child. Right? I was so excited. The first pint hardly touched the sides. I'm getting this feeling more and more each day. There seems to be, don't want to jinx it, seems to be a little bit of light. A glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, and I can sense it. People are starting to feel as though there's some form of normality coming back. So yeah, I've had a beer. Looking forward to another one. How about you?
I haven't been down the pub yet. Must admit, I've been out onto the high street, and I've been out a couple of times onto the high street, and really different out there. Some days you go out there and it's dead as a door now. There's just no movement at all. And then the other day we went out on, I think it's Saturday, worst day to go, I know. Went out on Saturday and went down the high street, and wow, the queues, obviously for social distancing and stuff like that, holding people at the stores. I mean, I've never seen a queue so long for Primark in my life. We actually queued to go into Debenhams. I wanted to see the last few days of Debenhams before they disappeared forever on our high streets. So yeah, I've been out there, but I did see a great picture online this week. I probably look back and see who took the picture, but it was some people in a pub. Dedication, 100%. They were sitting outside. It was pouring of rain. The sky was as black as your hat, and they were sitting underneath the table with their drinks, keeping dry. It was honestly, it was a fantastic picture. Great advertising for the pub, and that's what it was out there for. So yeah, it's an interesting place at the moment. Time is flying by. Normality is kind of coming back to us very quickly. And I think we're getting there slowly but surely. We are getting there.
Yeah, I think there's definite there's definite optimism in certain areas. Certain areas, like the events business, it's still sitting on our hands waiting for the thumbs up. I know there's tests going on, and hopefully the industry gets good news some point soon. But already, the stories are abounding about what is going back to the office going to look like. And in the news even today, there's more and more notifications that people will be not necessarily going back to the office full time. They're already calling it hybrid working. Yeah. So we're kind of used to that, right? Working from home or from the lounge, from the dining room or whatever. I'd be interested to hear from the audience. What are your experiences? Are you going back to the office? Do you want to go back to the office? To a degree, I think we, at the moment, will perhaps romanticize what working in the office was like because we've missed it so much. But I'm not convinced that 9 to 5, big commutes, big travels for short meetings will be going on much in the future.
So I wonder what's happening out there. If you're watching this now, if you're watching on catch up, no reason to comment, but if you're watching this live with us now, tell us what it's like for you out there. Have you been out, got your hair cut? Did you manage to get an appointment at the local salon, the hairdressers, the barbers? Have you been for your pints outside? I saw some people as I was driving past, I think it was Sunday when it was really, really cold outside, sitting outside, eating their roast dinners, wearing their, bomber jackets, wrapped up with woolly hats on. Was you that person I saw as I was driving past Ipswich town centre it was on that particular day? So tell us what's happening in your businesses out there. Are you still lean and mean, or are you fighting back and coming back bouncing and strong? We'd be interesting to know. And talking of business, Nick, let's talk about EXSE. a great event that's starting next week, Tuesday the 11th through to Thursday the 13th of May. It's a business expo, east to southeast. So it's covering all the east of England right the way through to the southeast of England. It's virtual. So actually, it's covering the whole of the world. So it doesn't matter where you are in the country. Even if you're stateside or over in the east, you can still sign up and come along. There's opportunities to have pop-up stands there, or virtual pop-up stands, where you can exhibit your products, your services, and what you are and who you are and what you do and why you do it. You can come as just a guest and have a look around and just go and see all the exhibitors. Lots of networking happening in the Virtual World Cafe, sponsored by the Federation of Small Businesses. I have to put that on there as I wear that cap from time to time.
Good work.
And absolutely. And of course, we've got a load of guest speakers as well, who will be standing up and sharing their stories about things that have happened in their business, and, to motivate and give you top tips, and, how to maybe win your next sale, etc., or put together your next presentation, or whatever it's been. Now, let's talk a little bit about EXSE. We've got a slot, Nick, an exciting slot. Let's talk about that first.
I think this is the most exciting part. Surely, this is the biggest draw.
You go.
Great opportunity, right? Great opportunity for businesses to visit, to exhibit, to get involved in a virtual conference/exhibition. But yeah, we're very fortunate, mate. You and I, every morning of the show, we're going to do a very similar breakfast show. We're going to be getting the speakers on, the sponsors on, exhibitors on, anyone who's involved in the show. We're going to be interviewing them live, conversations. And for me, right, you know my background, right? I'm a human communication specialist. Right, everything I do human centric, and the start of a relationship, realistically, it's a conversation. Okay, I want a conversation with people to get to know them and kind of get a feel for, do we empathize? Do we resonate? Can we build rapport? And this is what it's going to be, a series of conversations. Really, really excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are the official radio DJs, virtual radio DJs for the EXSE show, and we'll be streaming live every morning from 9:30 to 10:30, and then opening up the show at 10:30. The virtual show begins and runs through till 5 o'clock. So here's the dates for your diary. Make sure you get them in. I'm going to pop it up on. I was going to play the video then as well. I'm going to put the dates up on the screen for everybody to see. So 11th to the 13th of May. You can register at exse.co.uk, whether you want to be an exhibitor or if you want to come along and just be part of the fantastic 3 days event. And you can dip in and out as well. You don't have to be there for the full 3 days. So if that's of interest to you, get that date in your diary. If you want to know more, pop it in the chat box. We will share the link in there later as well. So
you're right, tease, mate. You're right, tease with that video. Thinking, oh, what's this? This is cool. And then you've just taken it away. Yeah.
The video comes later. We'll talk about more about later on in the show. But we do have some great guests lined up this morning, sitting backstage in the green room, ready to come on. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick ad break. And when we come back, we're going to get our first guest of the morning on and find out more about them and what they do. So Nick,
very excited, mate. Very excited.
Would you like to introduce our first guest of this morning?
Absolutely. And ironically, we've never met in the flesh, right? We met on a virtual networking event, and we've had many conversations. So the relationship is up and running, and brilliant, right? Going to learn a lot. Really excited to welcome onto the show Mr. Colin McLean.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Colin. How are you doing? Are you well?
Streaming all the way from, at the moment, a semi-sunny Norwich here in Norfolk. Yes, well, thank you very much.
Good, great stuff, and lovely for you to be on the show. Thank you very much for your time. Hugely appreciated. You're a voice actor, a narrator, presenter, speaker, all things very public facing, lots of face-to-face interaction in your business, similar to mine and David's. Must have been a hell of a year. Tell us a bit about your story. How did you get to the dizzy heights of narration and voice acting?
Well, I did have a proper job once, Nick. Yes, I mean it doesn't just happen. But I mean, the one thing I knew I didn't know anything about what I wanted to do in my final year at university, and I was just about to graduate in modern languages, French and German. And I thought, well, all my father's friends had said, "Are you going to go into the Foreign Office?" No. Okay. Are you going to teach? No. So they then looked very puzzled and walked away. So I clearly had the idea that my options were very limited, but I was determined that I wasn't just going to fall into the City of London along with most of my contemporaries at the time. So I was lucky and got a job as a book publisher. So that seemed to make sense. I'd spent most of my life in schools and at university at that point, and my principal friends had been books. So book publisher sounded like a good deal. But it lasted precisely 1 year, and I won't bore you with that particular story. And inevitably, I fell into the city because there I was working in Fetter Lane in London, and the city magnet drew me across. And it took me 18 years to extricate myself from the world of reinsurance broking. So that was a complete divide. But the reinsurance aspect got me, once I understood what it was all about. I spent the whole of my first year asking everybody, what's this job about? Why am I doing this? You put that piece of paper from there, mate, and you put it in that tray over there, but make sure it's got a tick in that box. Fine. Why am I doing it? Oh, don't know, mate. That's where the paper goes over. And it was hugely frustrating because I didn't have a clue what it was about. So learning lesson there was, don't expect to be told what the big context is in the job that you're falling into, particularly in kind of big business. But I was just like a 5-year-old. I went around the entire time asking why the whole time. Eventually, I kind of got a handle on it. And they sent me traveling as a representative, bearing in mind we were a broking house. And I spent a lot of my life in mostly in continental Europe, but as far north as Finland, as far south as Greece. But my main patch was German-speaking Europe. And that was a glorified form of client relationship management, basically. But I learned a lot over those years about sitting in a room one-on-one or one on 3, 4, 5 sometimes, and having conversations, not always in my own language, but sometimes in theirs, making sure basically that the relationship was okay. So it was making sure that the glue was there. And when I fell out of that eventually, which was just about the turn of the century, if anyone can remember that far back, I decided I rode the internet wave for a little while. The dot-com boom was happening. And then I thought, no, I'm going to set up something on my own. And I set up the business, which is still running, called Presentation Works, which is an area that you and I overlap on a fair amount, Nick. It's not a communications agency in the same way, or communications focused company, but more on presenting and public speaking. And it started out as a skills training operation, but it's grown because it's just me. The joy of being just me is that the direction of the company can change, and has indeed changed during the course of telephone conversations on more than one occasion. Do you do this? Yes, I do. That sounds interesting. So why not? And that's been a rather haphazard but wholly organic way of growing the business. So that, as you just alluded to, has grown organically, I suppose, into the voice acting area and arena. At first accidentally, and then now much more by purpose, on purpose, I should say. So it's been a slightly muddled web. But what I realize I'm doing in setting up that business is learning from the business area and applying what have always been my primary interests, and that is in audiences, first of all, which is the area that you and I hugely overlap on, but audiences particularly from a performance point of view, because I've been, I suppose, entirely in an amateur capacity. I've been acting and directing since I was very young. I think I was 6 when I discovered I enjoyed doing that. So that's been a hugely long time. We won't go into that.
It's funny, isn't it, how just a chance phone call or an interaction can change direction. I think it was last week or maybe the week before, talking about where the idea of modern zombies came from. And it was just a conversation, and then a metaphor was born, and it steered my business direction probably for forevermore. And it's the beauty of a phone call. It's the beauty of a conversation, and one of the beauties of this show really is, you have really kind of interesting, valuable, informative conversations, and no doubt, people will learn and hopefully, change direction for the better because of it. And I'm very interested to know about the voice acting, especially as that happened by accident. We've got a video, haven't we, David, of just a glimpse, a little test, maybe a little teaser for us on what Colin has to offer the world of voice acting. Let's have a little look, shall we? Or listen, I should say.
One fine winter's day, when Piglet was brushing away the snow in front of his house, he happened to look up, and there was Winnie the Pooh. Pooh was walking round and round in a circle, thinking of something else, and when Piglet called to him, he just went on walking. "Hello," said Piglet. "What are you doing?" "Hunting," said Pooh. "Hunting what?" "Tracking something," said Winnie the Pooh, very mysterious.
Wow.
Beautiful, right? And I'm losing myself already, right? In the Winnie the Pooh adventure, you have a voice, Colin, that just pulls you in, and then doesn't let go, right? It's like I don't know how often it's been described, but it's like a Sunday afternoon hug, right? You're in, you're comfortable. Oh, you're in. How did that come about?
Steal that one, Nick. Thank you very much. Well, it actually, funny enough, there's another. I mean, there's a beautiful link there. I hope that one of the things that I have learned, and one of the things that informs those phone calls and those changes on the hoof, as it were, is that I've learned to be open to the idea of why people are asking me if I can do something, or why people think that I can. Because very often, and here I hope is the link with the voice, and there's an interesting, I think, little story about how the YouTube channel that comes from came to be. But it's very often that your clients will tell you or even intimate what you're good at, because we think that we can describe what we do, and we do have to have a handle on that. We do have to have an answer to what is it that you do. But actually, it's only when people feed it back to us in terms of benefit that we can actually understand which bits of that resonate, or which bits even, as it were, attach. So, being given a description of one's own voice in those glowing terms is lovely, but it's the little hints like that I increasingly ask people to write to me when I'm trying to put copy together for, even for a bit of training I may be doing, or getting some testimonials together or something for a website. I say, "Can you tell me what I do?" And they go, "Really? Are you that far gone? I know you're getting on. Really? You must be able to remember some of this." But I say, "No, I want to hear from you what it is I do that works, if you like." And that's where these chance phone calls can really work, because if they're phoning up to say, "Do you do this?" there is a hope, or perhaps even an expectation, that you're going to say yes. So recognizing opportunity as it comes along is fun. There are lots of rabbit holes down which you can chase and get lost, of course. But I think my advice generally, having chased down several, is go for it. Your instincts will pretty soon tell you if you're not on a winner, if it doesn't feel right, if you're not getting the feedback that you expected. But chase a few rabbit holes, chase down, go for it.
Yeah, really,
especially if it brings you joy. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And in case you didn't hear it or see it, I hugely enjoyed, for example, reading Winnie the Pooh. What a great excuse to go back to all of Winnie the Pooh and put it together, partly in celebration of becoming a grandfather for the first time, which is something that was on my mind at the time that I picked up the microphone, but also just for the sheer joy of it. And yes, so that comes off the YouTube channel called The Healing Voice, which is very immodestly named, but I have to say that I didn't name it. It's one of those instances.
Yeah, and Colin, you certainly have a healing voice. And I want to add to what Nick said. It is like a big squeezy hug on a Sunday afternoon, but in front of an open fire when the snow is coming down outside as well. And yeah, the voice is just amazing to listen to, even just in that short extract of 30 seconds. I just sat there and I was just kind of away. That's why the healing voice comes into play. So Winnie the Pooh, I'm sure your grandson or granddaughter, congratulations, by the way, will be listening to that in the years to come, and probably even when they're probably in their 20s and 30s, be sitting there going, my granddad recorded this, and be sharing it with all their friends, etc. What sort of projects have you worked on? Obviously, Winnie the Pooh being there. What about kind of bringing it into businesses, audio books and stuff like that? Is there some stuff you've been involved with and how that's impacted the businesses that you've worked for as well?
I've done. Yes, I've recorded audio books. That isn't my specialism, but I have read audio books. Most of what happens these days is corporate explainer videos and how-to videos, short minute and a half, 2-minute videos that appear very often for internal use rather than necessarily being posted on the web or on websites, but that too. A certain amount of television narration. I've made it to BBC and Channel 4 now, as well as other Sky channels, Sky History and PBS America and various other places. So it's always a bit alarming. You turn the television on in the evening and, there you get yourself yakking on about something, forgetting that you possibly ever recorded it. It doesn't happen often. Don't let me overplay that, but occasionally it does.
No, overplay it.
No. I mean, it's a bit, when I went for can you tell I've had my lockdown haircut, post-lockdown haircut, and inevitably, you get chatting. They say, well, what do you do? Well, these days I'm mostly a voice actor. Oh, anything I might have heard of. And of course, at that point, your mind goes completely blank. You can't think of anything you've done, let alone anything that might be vaguely in the public domain. No, but to answer your question, there is a focus, I think, to most of what I get asked to do, and that is, broadly speaking, in the e-learning area. So that works particularly, I'm told, for people for whom English is not their first language, not their primary language. So if you are a professional doctor, dentist, or lawyer, or whatever it may be, in various parts of the world, not just in UK or Europe, you find that you do your revision or maybe even some of your principal learning entirely online, where it used to be in a room, one on several. Now, of course, it's all delivered online, and that content has to be voiced. I mean, that has to come from somewhere, and so that's the sort of thing. Can be quite dry. The content itself can be quite dry, but you learn to read it as if it's more interesting than it is. Let me put it that way.
Not the same as reading Winnie the Pooh, though, is it? That's
it's not the same. No, I mean, thank you for the opportunity to bring Winnie the Pooh to your breakfast show. I can't believe that many people tuned in this morning expecting to have even 30 seconds of Winnie the Pooh, but I'm delighted he got in there. It's there because it's fun, and there is nothing wrong in listening to Winnie the Pooh. The demographics, incidentally, on my channel don't include children at all. They're all parents, obviously, who find it, but I got a sneaking suspicion that they're the ones that are listening, which is great, and I don't mind that one bit.
Timeless magic. So, what would you say, Colin, to someone who said, "Oh, you know what? I've been told I've got a decent voice, and I've been in this spot. Oh, Nick, you should do voiceovers." And stuff like that. What advice would you give? And I would imagine not everyone's voice lends itself to narration or voice work.
Well, I think that that's undoubtedly true, but I think that you've only got to listen to the radio, to watch the television, to listen to anything these days, podcasts, to know that the range of voices and the range of approaches, to say nothing of accents and ethnic origins, is enormous, as wide as it gets, and therefore the demand for work in that area. This doesn't suit everyone. I mean, this is good old colonial RP, as I describe it, isn't for everybody, and increasingly not for the UK. So a lot of the work I get's in the Middle East, it's in the States, it's in other areas. India, big following in India. Well, that's great, but you have to know your audience. As far as the question goes, the principal thing to do would be to get hold of a book which a man called Dave Courvoisier, spelt exactly like the brandy, Dave Courvoisier, who's a news anchor in Los Angeles, has written, which is called More Than Just a Voice. More Than Just a Voice. And it's available in Kindle form. And I recommend it in Kindle form because the links, and there are lots of links in the book, are then all live if you read it online. And you can then bounce between the various things. But it's an excellent summary and an excellent introduction to the business. It's wholly positive in terms of encouraging people to do it, but it's also wholly realistic in terms of what you need to think about, what you need to have in mind before setting out. In exactly the same way that we're all photographers with a phone in our pockets these days, we're all voiceover artists with even just a laptop, let alone a laptop plus a USB mic. So the barriers to entry on this stuff have reduced and reduced and reduced. There are no barriers, except that you've got to be technically quite competent. You've got to have an idea of what a script can do and where it's going to find a market, and all of the stuff that goes with it being a business rather than a hobby. But if you just want to record yourself doing a few recorded videos, that, as I say, there are no barriers. But Dave Courvoisier's book is as good a place to start as any, and it's what I recommend to anyone when they approach me. More Than Just a Voice.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, Colin, it's been an absolute pleasure. If we could wrap up with one last top tip. You've been running your businesses now for quite a few years.
Yep.
Obviously, have lots of experience, lots of knowledge, even in the corporate world, going back to the early days. You've probably learned a lot and seen a lot over that time, like we all have. But if you could give one single top tip to our listeners and viewers today about life, about business life, what do you think that would be?
I think it's really to underline that point about having the courage of your convictions, because I have made, as you heard just in that very brief, rather messy summary, I have made lots of jumps. Some have been forced on me, some I have made myself. But the joy that comes from making a decision that you have, that your gut tells you is good for you, that might be good, that you stick to, really, that wonderful quote, which I haven't got at the top of my head, from Goethe about, something has genius and magic in it. What a shame. Let's put it in the comments below when I get it. But that is the key here. It's having that courage to follow that instinct, to listen to what you're being told, really to pick the bones out of what you're being told and try it. Really give it some, don't just give it half an hour, give it some full-on attention, some good full-on effort, and you'll be amazed by how much of that comes off. But you have to feel it.
Great advice, Colin, and lovely to kind of to talk to you and to hear you share your wisdom with our audience.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah, and who wouldn't want to spend some time pursuing something with joy and courage? And we've all found, that there's massive joy to be had. It's not a walk in the park. It's sometimes very difficult, but massive amounts of joy to be had on this business journey that we're all on. Thank you very much, Colin. Hugely appreciate your time, and look forward to seeing you again very soon.
And you, Nick. Cheers, David. Bye for now.
Thanks, Colin. Bye-bye. Wow, what a great interview. And hopefully those that are watching or listening to this laying in bed haven't nodded back off to the softness of the voice. It is just amazing. You listen to it and it just very calm and absolutely perfect. So I'm going to have to work on my vocals and see if I can. Well, I'm never going to get to that sort of quality. That's taken years of perfection, of course.
People are probably listening now going, get Colin back on. Can't stand Nick and David, you know, our voices. God, they're grating on us. We want Colin back. Yeah, brilliant. And sound advice too. Excuse the pun, but yeah, very much.
Right, let's go to a quick ad break. And when we come back, we're talking a little bit more about EXSE and how you can get involved in that event. And then we'll be welcoming onto the show our next guest of the morning. Okay, if you want to sponsor the show and help Nick and I out by putting a few pounds on the table, do get in touch with us. We'll always welcome a conversation with you. It just allows us to keep streaming these shows on a weekly basis and reach larger and further audiences as well. And of course, if you want to be on the show, then do get in touch as well. We'd love to hear from you. I will say we are fully booked for the whole of the month of May, which is fantastic news. But if you are interested in coming on the show in June, then do get in touch. You can go to the website, uni.co.uk/UniTV. More information on there. You can sign up online, give us a little bit of background about who you are, and then we'll be in touch and hopefully get you on the show for a conversation, find out about your business and what you do. Now, we were talking earlier on the show before we heard from the lovely Colin about EXSE. And yes, we're going to give it a little bit more of a plug. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a very short video to give people an overview.
I was hoping you were going to say that, mate. I was hoping you were going to say that.
I was holding it back for this prime opportunity. But I'm going to roll this short video. It's literally 30 seconds. And it's going to show us what a virtual expo is all about. That's not that one, you see. That's the date and time. If you want to see when it is.
You're such a tease.
That's the date and time. It's coming. But here's the video. There we go. EXSE 2021, powered by the amazing platform, which looks great, Nick. That platform is looking really, super. It's very different to going onto a Zoom call or a Teams call. You will be able to see people and interact and have conversations, but it's like going to a real expo as much as you can, but in a virtual world.
It's going to be great, mate. I'm really excited for a whole host of reasons, right? Massive excitement for the breakfast show each morning, of course. But over the last, let's say, 12 months, you kind of wonder what does the kind of the expo conference world, what's it going to look like? And if people are heading towards hybrid working, then hybrid expos, no doubt, will be a big part of the future. And this is a great opportunity to get stuck in and just see what it's all about, how it works for you, most importantly, how you can communicate with your world, your audience, and start building those relationships. Yeah, going to be really good. Looks mighty fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely does. And I'm looking so forward to it. So that's next. I'm going to put the right banner on the screen this time. Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, 11th to 13th of May. Find out more information at EXSE. That's EXSE.co.uk. And that doesn't matter where you are in the world. That is available to you because we are obviously all online and completing it virtually. All you need is a webcam and yourself some audio. No different to what most of us have been doing for the last 12 months. And Nick and I look forward to having you on the breakfast show as well. Tune in, find out, listen to the speakers, hear from our sponsors, hear from the people that are making the show actually happen as well. So it's going to be a great event. A couple of days working virtually on that with yourself, Nick. Brilliant. Right. We are at that time, 35 minutes to 8:35, 25 minutes to 9, where we're going to bring on to the show our next guest. This particular guest I've known for many, many years, actually spent some time working with him in the past. And it's a pleasure to get him on the show because I know his business has boomed over the years and has gone from, startup right the way through, as most businesses do now. He's conquering the world. Let's welcome onto the show Mr. Chris Lucas Jones. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, David. Good morning, Nick.
Morning, Chris.
Take the stage. There you go. Welcome, Chris. Thanks for joining us this morning. You're obviously in the standing position. I love that. People that stand and talk and present as well.
Well, it's this new fancy desk I've got. So one of those little stand-in seating desks. They're fantastic. So I need to lose the old belly. So I thought if I stand a bit more, it should hopefully fall out, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm in that world as well. I think lockdown's been cruel to me, or probably I've been cruel by probably eating the wrong things at the wrong times and stuff like that. So, Chris, absolute enforcement. I know you've got some other businesses which we might tap into as well, but I kind of cast my mind back. I'm going to say 5 or 6 years when I first met you. We started doing some work together. On your business, kind of putting into place strategies and plans and stuff like that, and thinking about how you're going to move the business forward. And then your business has kind of really grown. And over the last several years, I've kept a close eye on what you've done. We've spoken a number of times. And funnily enough, we won't necessarily go into detail, but you've taken on a case for me. We'll talk about what you actually do. And things have really gone big for you. So tell us a little bit more about absolute enforcement and that journey to date.
Yeah, well, actually, it's quite funny because when we first met, I was literally working in a small office in a back garden, wasn't I? And now we've actually got quite a large kind of building, which is actually, a lot larger than we was expecting to move into. So one of the other little businesses is actually rent out some of the other desks, the other offices, which benefits, the whole group company. But yeah, so we seem to be doing well. COVID has been a big kick to us, and to our industry. Obviously it's affected most businesses and individuals, but surprisingly, enforcement has been hugely affected. Normally, enforcement is one of those kind of, recession beta companies. We don't normally get affected with any kind of recessions because ultimately, we're there to, keep money moving around the country. But this has actually been a bit of a kick to us. But we're quite lucky. We're actually one of the few enforcement companies that stayed open right the way through this. But our work our approach has actually had to change massively to be, COVID safe. And we've had to kind of been a lot more mindful of the debtor, the defendant, in all of this, as well as the claimant, which obviously, if you owe that money, you want us to get your money back ASAP. But with this COVID time, we've got to, be firm and fair. So it's been a bit of a testing year, but I must say it must be about 3 weeks ago from just getting the odd kind of calls coming through and was really kind of like going, God, when are we getting out of this? The phone seems to be going a bit mental at the moment with solicitors of they seem to be getting back into work. So they're getting on the phone to us going, right, we've got this issue. Kind of how can we get this going now? What's the situation with the courts? What's the situation with this? So I must say it does look like we're certainly coming through it now.
Fantastic. So let's look into the business a little bit more. Yeah. I'm going to refer to it as people will probably have seen the TV show, Don't Pay Where, Take It Away, or Can't Pay Where, Take It Away. And basically, what you do in a summary, a debt becomes due. The claimant, in your case, has done everything they can to try and get their money. They've done all the niceties, sent a statement, made a few phone calls, maybe turned up on the door and said, come on, you owe me this money. But they don't have the power to enforce it, not legally anyhow. Obviously, there's other ways, but we're not going down that road. We're a professional show, aren't we? So then they obviously take it to a small claims court and then get that kind of moved up the food chain. And in the end, it comes to yourself as a high court bailiff. I think that's kind of the correct wording. And you take that case on. So explain what you do and how you do it professionally, not the white vans with baseball bats.
So actually, bailiff is actually an old term now. So in 2014, new legislation came in place, which actually meant we lost the kind of reputation. Well, we're trying to lose that reputation, the title bailiff, and gone to enforcement agent. You rightly said there is actually the High Court side of things. So most of what we do is actually High Court enforcement. So we have the enforcement agents issued with a High Court writ of control, and it's kind of. Yeah, so our main clients, so actually it could be individuals, it could be companies, and it'll be a case of they'll be owed money, and you're rightly so. It's a case of, they'll try every aspect of every avenue to try and get their money back before they come to us. We're the last result, because especially if it's a company that's owed the money, then actually it means your client is the one owing you money. So you want to probably keep that relationship good. So you don't want to send it to enforcement. So it's kind of, after that soft approach doesn't work, then sadly it's a case of then they go, right, we now need to, take it through the courts. And Money Claim Online is a fantastic tool. So where people can go online, it's very straightforward, and people can register the debt online. We actually even have a service now where you get some people go, I ain't got time for going online, or, I'm not really computer savvy. So we actually go and actually take that stress away from them and actually assist them through that process so they can register that debt. And once that's actually registered and a CCJ, a county court judgment, is issued, that's when we can then get involved, because we can transfer to High Court on their behalf. And once we've been issued that High Court writ, we can then go and send a letter. If that letter doesn't get responded to, then we'll visit the property with the intention to remove goods to get your money back. So we'll remove those goods and later sell those goods. So it's quite, it's quite a powerful tool that we have. With these COVID rules, the Ministry of Justice has basically had some good some guidance for us to make sure we're wearing face masks, sanitising, and so on. And there's been a few restrictions which has slowed the enforcement process down, but it hasn't stopped us. So we're still out there. We're still getting our clients' money, but we're hoping, as everything's going and the R numbers not increasing up, going up too high, we're hoping that we'll be able to do our job to the fullest again very, very soon.
Absolutely. You can then go in there and claim my debt for me.
Exactly. That's actually one of the priority cases. It's frustrating, that one. I want to make sure we get that.
I could do a shout out, name and shame, but that's not what it's about. Maybe that's another show, Nick, we could do with Chris, how to name and shame people that break, don't pay. Don't pay.
I love the idea of getting ourselves into big trouble, mate. Good trouble, right? Good trouble. Chris, this sounds like, it sounds fascinating. It's just a glimpse of life that, I don't really know much about. How often do you get the comment, "Oh, you're in enforcement. I thought you'd be bigger." Right?
Do you know
what? You expected to be a burly geezer with a big beard and a shaved head.
Do you know what? When I started the industry, I was age 19. I started in the industry, and I literally walked into the enforcement office as such, and all I looked around was big skinheads. And when they looked at me, and at the time I was 19, I was very skinny and very naive. And they were like, "Yeah, this guy, give him 2 weeks, he'll be gone." And it was kind of, but my approach was totally different to all of them. And that wasn't what the industry wanted or needed. That's not what the clients wanted. What they wanted was someone who can, investigate the case and actually, profile the jobs and really kind of, work in a different kind of way, the firm but fair way. And it was kind of, very quickly, I was doing a lot better than they was, because I was actually investigating it. When we get so many people lie to us. It's a shame. When I started the industry, I thought, we'll turn up, you'll have our license and so on. People will literally start telling us the truth. Oh my goodness! As soon as you show that license, everyone wants to lie to you. It's just like, it's madness. So it's kind of literally investigating and reading between the lines, your questioning techniques, and then next thing you find the truth. And the truth will hopefully be the answer of, let's get this paid. Let's not go down that avenue of removing goods. Let's just deal with the matter now before it's going to get out of control. So we've actually been, very successful on that, and we're growing. We've got some really good clients coming on board, and it's kind of, they were literally put on hold just before COVID, when COVID come around, and we're literally going live. We've just received a large volume, let's say, of cases which have landed only yesterday. So we've got a busy few weeks ahead of us. Yeah, fingers crossed. We'll be flying soon.
Great news, great news. It's great to get that work stacking in. It's certainly a pivotal time for many businesses. Obviously, you've collected debt in the past yourself. I don't know if you still kind of get out there on the ground, walking around, knocking on the doors. But obviously, we're in a very changing place. I'm just going to go back to the business world. I know you're collecting it from a personal perspective as well. But there's going to be a lot of businesses over the next, well, it's happening. And certainly over the next 6 months, which are going to feel the pinch, the pain, and unfortunately going to probably have to close their doors, probably owing money in some cases, not all cases, but probably owing money. And that's going to potentially get, put through the ranks, and some of that will end up on your doormat to go and collect. Now, I know this is not something you probably think about, but it must sit there at the back of your mind when going to knock on someone's door to pick up that debt, whatever that value is. Sometimes extreme, sometimes could be maybe a few £1,000s. How does it feel? Do you just get on and do the job and just have to put all that empathy and everything to one side and go, I'm here to do a job?
So I still do get on the road, very occasionally now. So Wales on the road every day of the week almost. Now it's a case of we've got our team that, we can trust. They get on with the job really well. There are certain cases which I will need to get involved with. So actually, for example, there was, we deal with all different types of defendant. So we could have literally just, a small business person kind of owing another business or person some money, or we can have kind of large airlines. And actually only 2 days ago, I was actually dealing with an airline. Surprise, surprise, they actually paid. I don't think they wanted us to take their Boeing 747.
Where are you going to store that one? Oh, we're just going to take your 747 or whatever it is, your 777. We're going to pop that back to the office.
Yeah, so parking that would have been a bit of a nightmare, but surprisingly they wanted to deal with the matter. So it's kind of, we deal with all types of it. We had one actually even middle of COVID where we had to it was helping a farmer out who had a dispute with another farmer, and we had to take all their wheat and barley. So that was a whole kind of new area we had to go down, and we actually raised just over £500,000 with the sell on all the stock and so on. So we had a very happy client at the end of it. But it's so yes, we deal with all different types. But in relation to the feeling when I'm enforcing, I keep in my mind actually, we've got someone like David yourself who is owed that money. You've done services, they've agreed to those services, and they haven't paid their side of it. So it's kind of, we've got to make sure we keep the client in mind when we're enforcing. But then on the other side, it's very funny because we've got to, juggle both sides of it. We've actually then got to, be fair with the person in front of us. So if it's someone, who's basically, being rude and aggressive to us, then actually probably makes it easier to enforce on, because you go, hold on a second, we're dealing with you politely and professionally, and we'll deal with that case. But on the other side of it, if we're dealing with someone who's actually dealing with us in a very professional and calm way, then actually we can, come to a fair agreement on how we're going to get this matter dealt with at the quickest time for our client. So it's kind of, we do look at every case as it comes. We do have to show a bit of empathy. Don't get me wrong. There's many times where we've gone and spoke to someone. The reason why I haven't paid their debt is because they physically don't have the money. They don't have the assets there. So then we've gone, well, hold on a second. We've actually stepped back and gone, well, do you know what? You probably need that support. And I've had it many a times where I've literally sat on someone's couch with them and gone, right, do you know what? These are the numbers. You need to go and get the support. And we're actually giving them support on the way to do it. Mental health is a massive factor right now. And it was actually only recently where I had to personally deal with a gentleman that when we knocked in his door, he literally just opened a window and he collapsed by the door. It was like the stress of someone visiting his property. Do you know what? Actually, when I left that property, I actually received messages from him saying, thank you so much for professionalism. I know I understand how you do this. And actually, we actually helped him. We actually have got him support for his mental health. And we've actually got him on such a low arrangement. But the client actually understands the full picture now, and the client knows they're going to get their money, but they're going to have to do it in stages. So it's kind of, sometimes we have to and more so now with COVID, we have to come in a bit of a kind of a negotiator approach instead of the heavy hammer coming down. But there are times when you do need that heavy hammer, but we have to gauge that and look at every case on its own merit.
I imagine the stuff that hits the TVs is predominantly heavy hammer, kick the doors in, old school style of enforcement. And that's really interesting, Chris, because seeing it from both sides, that adage that you don't know where, you don't know much about someone until you've spent, a day in their shoes.
Yeah.
And I think you absolutely spot on about mental health, and I think it's something that we should dedicate time in the show. We've spoken about it, but I think it's just massively prevalent. It's tough enough time as it is, without something going awry and suddenly you're on the wrong end of a bad debt.
Yeah.
It must be quite a tricky process from start to finish. You've got the formal stuff. This is how it works. This is how much money it is. And then you've got all the emotional stuff to deal with as well.
No, you're totally right. And it's one of those things where, to keep ourselves sane, we do have to, in a way, switch off our kind of emotions and look at the facts on the case. And it's one of those things that is the best kind of way to deal with it. So you switch the emotions off, deal with the facts. Obviously we've shown a bit of empathy on the case, but it's kind of, we do have people lie to us as well. And this is what is a shame, when you do have people claiming that they're under the mental health, they've got this issue, that issue, and it muddies the water for the people who seriously do need that support. And we do have a support. Surprisingly, even as an enforcement, we've actually got someone in the office here who actually, if we have a vulnerable person who contacts us, they will deal with that, and they will then try and look at the facts on that. But the problem is, you do have people that do muddy the water. So as enforcement, we've got to, like I say, turn the emotions off, look at all the facts, and then make that judgment. And don't get me wrong, sometimes we get it wrong. We're human at the end of the day, but we try to make sure we are doing the best thing for our client. But also, we're all licensed by the court, so we want to keep our license. So we make sure we are kind of the mediator when we need to be. So yeah. But at the moment, it seems to be doing really well. So like I said, our approach has changed, but we're still getting some very good numbers coming through. I just can't wait until the whole regs are lifted, and we don't have to wear these blimmin' face masks anymore, and we can actually shake hands. That would be brilliant. Most of the jobs I walk away from, we end up shaking hands. But obviously with the COVID, which sounds really weird, we've actually gone there and taken their money off them, and then we're shaking hands as we walk away. But our approach, we're not the old kind of bullies to go into property. We're there to, stop them losing their items. We're commanded by the High Court to collect money. We're commanded to actually remove goods. The only way to stop that would be by paying it. So once we get that kind of message over, we're not there to make any judgment. That's already happened, and kind of the way we communicate with the people is key.
Yeah, absolutely. So been running your business now for a number of years. You've got a training side as well, because you actually do train your enforcement officers, or you go through and train them. And obviously, I'd imagine you pick the best of the bunch for your own use, and then let the others. Absolutely, that's the entrepreneurial side of it, isn't it? And then obviously the others can go on. But so you've got the training side, you've got the office premises now that you own, sublet out to other small businesses. You're based in Essex, so you are an Essex business, and you're in Gatestone, if I remember rightly, aren't you? That's where your offices are, is that correct?
Yeah, so we've got some offices in Gatestone. We're very lucky to have these offices actually. Quite a large site now. But yeah, you mentioned about the training, and you're so right. So when I was going through kind of the process of becoming, where we at, which I'm still at the early stages, we've still got a lot more growth to go yet. It's kind of, what I noticed were actually some, the training to make sure we get the right enforcement agents was so important. We actually developed the level 3 qualification for enforcement agents. We've done the whole process so they can get court certificated. Through the other company, what we actually did is, what we do is we focus on actually military leavers, and we actually can even draw down some LCAS funding, which is basically you could say military funding as such, to assist those military leavers in the transaction to Civvy Street, and actually then we can get them into employment for enforcement. And obviously, like you say, those best ones, those ones that get those distinctions, they're the ones that we have a private chat with and go, hold on, we actually have our own enforcement company. You want to come and have a chat with us as well? So it's good. So we can we've got the whole process there from someone leaving military to actually give them a nice, reliable income for the good ones.
The clock's ticking down very rapidly. We're going to be coming to the end of the show very shortly. And I asked Colin earlier when he was with us about 20 minutes ago. Final question is, been running businesses for a number of years now, Chris.
Yep.
Super successful, growing every day, obviously employing lots of people, and probably lots of great tips that you've picked up through your knowledge and skill over the years. One single thing you can offer to our listeners, our viewers, what would that be about running a business? Is it just, getting going? Is it, something you found along the way? What makes you every day?
Yeah, actually, I was given a tip quite a few years ago, and it was and this was from a very successful business person, and they said basically, stick with what you know, and actually, focus on that one thing and grow that to be amazing. Do you know what? I actually surprisingly listened to that, started in that avenue, and as things develop, I don't like saying no. So I was like, oh, yeah, actually, we can do that. We can do this. And then suddenly, before I knew it, we had loads of little sidelines. So now we actually do door security. We do this, we do that. We actually have kind of lots of different fingers and pies. And with COVID, it smashed so many companies because they were focused on one thing. And we survived this, and hence why we stayed open right the way through. Don't get it wrong, we had to furlough staff, we had to really kind of think smart, but we actually stayed open right the way through. And it was actually because we had fingers in many pies, and we was like, right, okay, this is slowed down, but we can still move our staff to do this. We can still do this, and actually just keeping your eyes and ears open and thinking of new opportunities all the time. So I don't know if that helps, but that's how we survive so far through this.
It ties in so well with what Colin said as well. He makes the decisions on a phone call. So on a phone up, do you do that? Well, yeah, we can do. And pretty much the same things happen to you as you've grown as a business. We don't do that. Can we do it? Can we adopt to it? Can we pivot that into our group of companies? And that's what's making you and many others a huge success, that you are open to ideas and looking at opportunity. And that's what being an entrepreneur to me is about. It's challenging that status quo, and you seem to be doing that on a daily basis, and moving the business forward. Chris, we will certainly have to catch up in the future. We're probably well long overdue a coffee or maybe something stronger, so we'll pencil that into the diary. I'll tell you what, you collect my debt, I'll shout that beer and lunch for you. We're allowed to sit inside, not outside in the pouring rain.
I'll hold you to that.
But it's been great having you on the show. Thank you very much for joining us. Chris Lucas Jones, if anyone wants to find out about getting their debt collected, then get in touch. His email address is on the screen now. So thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you,
Chris.
Okay, have a good day. Speak to you soon.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Well, Nick, we are coming close to the end of this week's show. Another great show. Great information. Great sharing. Great content. Favourite bit of the show today?
Oh, mate, just the fact that you ask, okay, what one kind of really kind of a key tip, and that they both massively resonate with each other, and I totally get that. That you might start doing one thing in your business, but there are massive opportunities out there. That Goethe quote that Colin referred to, and I know you've put it on the feed. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And I think, and we've spoken about this in the past, if it's something that sparks great joy, and you're courageous enough to have a go, then why not? Absolutely, why not? And you'll know full well after a short while whether that's something that you want to continue to do. And there'll be dozens, hundreds of entrepreneurs on the edge of that decision. Should I? And I guess the advice is, yeah, why not? Give it a go.
Yeah. Give it a go. If you don't start, you don't try, you will never know. And I think anyone would say who's started a business, just do it, give it a go. If it doesn't work out for you and it's not for you, don't worry about it. Brush yourself down, move on and try something else. Just don't try to end up with a huge debt at the end of it. And then Chris is coming knocking on your door to try and get that back for their clients or something like that. But it's been another great show. Don't forget, we're back next Thursday, but we are doing the EXSE show next Thursday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're 9:30 to 10:30. So we're a bit of a later start. And we're going to be, covering everything about business at EXSE. So we're talking to all the great speakers, sponsors, exhibitors, and we'll grab some of the footfall as well, some of the people that have gone along there to find out more.
So that means next Thursday, mate, we're doing 2 shows, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're going to be doing this breakfast show, and we'll be doing the EXSE breakfast show. I don't know how much breakfast you can handle, but we've got it.
As long as it's not Weetabix and beans, Nick. We'll have something more exciting lined up. So anyway, from me, David Bell, and from Mr. Nick Luby, have yourself a great week, what's left of it. We will see you, if you're going to come and join us at the EXSE show on Tuesday next week. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.